The Galactic Council had grown fat on power. For centuries, their fleets had crossed the void, bringing order to lesser civilizations. Order in their language meant submission. For humanity, it meant chains. The Council had been watching Earth for decades. At first, they thought the humans laughable, too divided, too backward, too raw. But something unsettled them. Humans learned fast. Where other species plateaued, humanity adapted. Every war, every struggle, every leap forward in science only made them harder, sharper. And so the Council resolved. Before humanity became a rival, they would become a subject. A plan was drawn. Fleets gathered. Intelligence ships slipped to the edges of human space, probing defenses. One such battle group drifted in the black near the Uat boundary. 10 warships, 3 heavy cruisers, 6 frigates, and 1 flagship, the Vathol Dominance, an iron spear sent to measure the strength of humanity. When they arrived, they weren't ready for what was waiting. It was 2 kilometers of armored death, a silhouette that blotted starlight, a cathedral of war. The Titan's Edge. The first officer of the Vathol Dominance hissed as the human carrier lit up his display. Lord Captain, it's impossible. No record shows the humans possessing anything close to this tonnage. Look at the scale. The Lord Captain narrowed his compound eyes, mandibles twitching. Exaggeration, a hollow shell. Humans love intimidation games. The human transmission came seconds later. The screen flickered alive, revealing a command deck of steel and shadow. At the center stood a man in a black fleet coat, his voice calm, his posture relaxed, as though addressing children. This is Admiral Kane of the Titan's Edge. You are trespassing in human space. Identify your intent. The Vathol captain sneered. Your primitive kind stands at the edge of annihilation. You will surrender your colonies, your fleets, and your sovereignty, or you will be eradicated. Kane chuckled. Around him, his officers smirked as though it was a private joke. That's your ultimatum. Cute. He leaned closer to the comm. All right then. Okay. The channel cut. The Lord Captain had just enough time to snarl before space itself seemed to ignite. The Titan's Edge moved like no ship its size had the right to move. 2,000 meters of steel and composite twisted through void on gravitic drives unknown to the Council, shedding inertia like water. Its spinal cannons roared once. Suns seemed to flare in the darkness, and a cruiser simply ceased to exist, its armor and reactor shattering in silence. Fighters poured from its launch bays, sleek, angular craft humming with impossible acceleration. Their guns carved through the void with lances of railshot and beams that shattered shields. The Council ships retaliated. Plasma cannons belched molten fury across the void, green-blue bolts slamming into Kane's carrier. Lasers, coherent beams of light, slashed through darkness, scoring Titan's shields and burning at its armor. Frigates crossed their fire, painting the void with stabbing brilliance. But the Titan's Edge was built for this. Its shields pulsed, bleeding off energy. Its armor flexed, shrugging aside radiation and molten impact. Point defense arrays spat invisible beams, dissolving plasma bolts mid-flight, shattering laser emitters before they could recharge. A frigate died under a swarm of fighters. Another cruiser fell, split open by a rail strike that gutted its reactor. The Edge rolled in void like a predator, too fast, too precise, defying everything the Council thought possible of a supercarrier. Minutes later, the battle group was wreckage. Only the Vathol Dominance survived, its weapons sheared away, its engines burning plasma into nothingness. The humans hailed again. Admiral Kane's face returned to their bridge, cold now, humor gone. Run back to your council. Tell them humanity will not be enslaved. Leave us alone or face the consequences. The feed cut. The crippled ship turned, limped into FTL and fled. The message was delivered. The council was not amused. 100 ships gathered at the frontier. Flagships, dreadnoughts, carriers, swarms of frigates. Their weapons glittered like a storm of stars. Plasma cannons enough to melt continents. Lasers able to cut through asteroids in single strokes. A war armada, a storm meant to wipe out a species before it could bloom. When they arrived, they found 3 waiting. Titan's Edge, Titan's Fury, Titan's Wrath. Humanity had not built one miracle, it had built a fleet of them. The battle at Eridani was written in fire. The council came in fast, their plasma bolts streaking across void like falling suns, their lasers crisscrossing space in a blinding web of destruction. They fanned into formation, filling the black with so much light it looked like a star had shattered. The three carriers held their line. Fighters screamed out in swarms, 3 squadrons from each carrier, weaving webs of light and contrails of burning debris. Human support cruisers and frigates surged forward, screens and pickets buying time with steel and sacrifice. Then the Titans opened fire. The Edge's spinal gun flared again, vaporizing a dreadnought in one brutal flash. The Fury split a cruiser in two with twin beams of contained plasma. The Wrath unleashed missile swarms guided by quantum AI, each dart weaving around laser fire, each warhead detonating deep within enemy hulls. Council plasma struck back. Bolts slammed into frigates, melting them into drifting slag. Lasers lanced across void, catching a fighter squadron mid-maneuver, burning them to ash in seconds. Human cruisers were gutted, but they kept firing, bleeding defiance into the dark. Still, the Titans did not fall. Their shields boiled, their armor seared, but they endured. They pushed forward, tearing into the council formation like wolves among cattle. Hours later, it was done. Of 100 council ships, fewer than 10 limped away into the void. The Titans let them go. They wanted witnesses. The survivors carried a single truth. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was predator. Weeks later, the council met in the Grand Chamber, a cathedral of politics carved into a hollowed moon. Representatives of 100 species gathered, their voices trembling, their demands sharp. We must negotiate. We must bring them to the table before they spread further. The chamber trembled as 3 shadows fell across it. The Titans had come. The carriers emerged from FTL above the council's sacred seat, blotting out the stars. Smaller human ships spread in a cordon, fighters prowling like wolves. The council panicked, but the humans did not open fire. Not yet. Inside the chamber, the feeds lit up with Admiral Kane once more. He stood calm, hands clasped behind his back, voice hard as steel. We gave you one warning. You ignored it. You came with fire, and you died in fire. One counselor tried to object, mandibles clattering. We can discuss terms. Humanity must compromise, must. Kane cut him off, his voice low. Terms? You don't understand. Humanity doesn't negotiate with slavers. Another shouted. Why? Why refuse reason? Kane's eyes hardened. He leaned closer to the feed. His words dropped like hammers. Why? Because fuck you. The Titans fired. The Grand Chamber shook as the orbital bombardment began. Walls cracked, ceilings collapsed. Alien delegates screamed as the seat of galactic power dissolved in fire and fury. The Council was no more. Hours later, Earth's message echoed across the stars. Broadcast on every open channel, translated into 100 tongues. This is the Terran Union. Re-elect new councillors if you wish. Rebuild if you can. But understand this. Humanity will not be enslaved. We will not be invaded. If you come for us again, we will destroy you again. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, every species in the galaxy understood a simple truth. The age of humanity had begun.